It's time for Chained No More, a place to find people who genuinely care about you and what you are living. Everybody has stuff, so let's talk about it. Welcome to a place you will find acceptance, understanding, and encouragement, as well as effective tools and resources to help you find healing from your stuff and help you move forward. Your host, Robin Beesman, is the author of Chained No More, a journey of healing for the adult children of divorce and childhood brokenness. Robin has had many years of experience of ministry to single-parent families, as well as mentoring and teaching women and kids. Robin and her expert guests will not beat you over the head with a Bible, but will combine faith and practical tools to help you with topics such as issues of divorce, relationships, single parenting, step families, abuse, and other personal struggles. Robin is ready to help you believe in who God says you are and not what anyone or anything has ever told you. So sit back, relax, and be encouraged and enlightened today on Chained No More. Now, here's your host, Robin Beesman.
Well, hello, and welcome to the debut show of Chained No More. We are delighted that you have tuned in, and we hope you'll be blessed by what you hear and what you learn. You know, I've been ministering to single parents and their kids for over 15 years now, and beginning with being a camp mom and then directing a large single-parent family ministry here in Oregon. I've seen the pain of the children. I've heard them as they cried. I have sat with teens after suicide attempts. I have held single moms and prayed with single dads who were devastated with the shattering of their families. My heart breaks for the pain in families today, and that's why we have this show called Chained No More. I learned a great deal about the issues of these hurting families from many experts like my first guest today. God then led me to write Chained No More, a journey of healing for the adult children of divorce and childhood brokenness. Now, over the next months, I want to bring these experts to you, hopefully that you can learn and grow from them. My first guest is Linda Ranson-Jacobs, the developer and author of Divorce Care for Kids, or DC4K as we call it, a program for elementary-age kids, but her expertise goes way beyond that, believe me. I would like to introduce to you my friend, my ministry mentor, and my colleague, Linda Ranson-Jacobs. Hello, Linda.
Hey, Robin. So glad to be here and excited about your first show.
Thanks. I couldn't think of anybody better than to have you on this show. I learned so much from you, and I cannot wait for people to hear what you've learned and how you can use all of that to help families today. The first thing I wanted to ask you is just kind of briefly tell how God led you to serve in the ministry you do. You have a great story.
Well, I don't believe in divorce. I didn't believe in divorce my whole life. I still don't believe in divorce, and I'm divorced. I don't believe in divorce because God says in the Bible that he hates divorce. And I know that divorce can destroy children, it can destroy families, it can destroy lives. So in 1985, I found myself in quite a quandary because my husband wanted a divorce. And while it takes two people to sign a marriage certificate, in most states it only takes one person to get a divorce. So whether you agree with the divorce or not, you can find yourself divorced. So in late 1980s, I found myself divorced. I was trying to find information for my own children. I could see that they were hurting. I was running a child care program. And when I looked around, I discovered most of the children in my child care that were having behavior issues were children of divorce. And there was nothing at that time to help us help the children. Well, there was very little at that time. So I started doing a lot of research, turned my child care into therapeutic child care, hired my own counselor, worked with a lot of therapists and professional people and to help these children. And so it just evolved and developed over the years. But the Lord has given me such a heart for hurting children. And I hate what we do to kids today. And so my passion is to help church leaders understand how to work with these children, to help single parents know how to help their children heal, just to help the world and society help these children who are hurting.
I think that's the first thing that resonated with me is your absolute love for children, because I share that as well. And as I was a camp mom, I remember holding children as they cried at camp, telling me about their families. And I went to your workshops, at conferences. I learned everything I could, and I just gleaned it all and used it in the ministries that I am. And I'm eternally grateful to you, Linda, really, for all that you've brought forth. And I am so excited about what's going to happen now and be able to get this out to the listeners. Do all children experience the effects of divorce in the same way?
No, every child is different. Every family situation is different. There are some general experiences that children have, but I always want to put a disclaimer out is, I'm going to be talking in generalities. Your family might be different. Your child might be different. But what I'm speaking is, for the most part, these are things children experience.
Okay. One of the questions I had too, what is the age group that has the most difficult time with the divorce of their parents, and how does it affect them more deeply than other ages? I've worked with the small children, certainly the teenagers. I worked with a teen group for a while as well, and I really would like your opinion on that. Is there a more difficult time in their life to go through it, in your opinion?
Well, there's a lot of interesting research on this, and I have my own observations on our DC4K blog, blog.dc4k.org, which I publish 3 posts a week on that. It's amazing because the most sought-after question for age groups on the blog is, how do you help 7- and 8-year-old children, especially 7- and 8-year-old boys? That's what people seem to be reaching out for. But the research shows that the younger a child is, the more times they will process the divorce. So in other words, if you have an infant or a toddler, as they move into elementary, kindergarten, as they move into 3rd grade, as they move into middle school, so every time they go through a different developmental stage, they reprocess the divorce. Doesn't mean they go back and experience everything all over again. But as a teen begins to date, they reprocess it because, I'm a boy. How do I know to date when I don't have a man in the home, a father in the home? But and the older a child is, like a late teen or adult, the deeper the crack in the foundation, so the more it might affect their current life. But research today, right now, shows that the hardest age for a child to experience a divorce is a tween, a child that's leaving elementary age and going into their teen years. That 11, 12-year-old, depending on the maturity of the child, seems to be the hardest age right now because they're leaving that nest of elementary school. They're entering more into a social world and dealing with peers. They are acting like they know how to do this. They can do this on their own. And yet tomorrow they may revert back to the little kid stage where they need their mom's help. They need their dad's help. So right now, tweens seem to be the group that's having the most problems processing their parents' divorce.
I do remember that, Linda. I do remember the tweens coming into the teen program, and they came and trying to be all, okay with it and everything. But it wasn't long before they broke into how they were really feeling. And they were trying to hold it back from their parents, how they felt, except for anger. And then when you finally got to it, you could see the devastation in them. So I totally resonate with that. Some of the kids, I've heard parents say this as well, that some kids, they'll be fine. They're doing great. I'm surprised. They're just doing great. So the question is, some children appear to not be affected by the divorce of their parents. And are they just pretending to be okay, or what do you think is going on there?
Well, a lot of children want to protect their parent. They know their parent is hurting, so they want to protect them. Little boys want to protect the moms. They want to be the man of the house, which, by the way, please do not tell your child he's the man of the house. This is the wrong thing to say. Mm-hmm. Little girls, they want to protect their dad, or maybe their mom. They've seen their mom crying. So a lot of children just suck this in order to protect their parents. So they do appear to be fine to their parents, but until you get the call from the 3rd grade teacher or the call from the band teacher or whatever. And then the other issue is many children will appear to get through this divorce because there may have been so much stress at home. Maybe there was a lot of arguing, or maybe it was just deathly silence all the time. The parents didn't fight, but the child knew there was something wrong. So they're relieved to be out of the stressful situation. But as they become an adult, then they start processing what happened to them as a child. So it's called Judith Wallerstein, who's done an incredible 25-year study on children of divorce. She calls it the sleeper effect. So as they become an adult, then they get married, they have their own children, then these issues begin to surface. Does that make sense?
Yes, it certainly does. And that's part of the reason why I wrote Chain No More, Linda, was because these kids at 20 years old and 18 and college age, my heart was that they didn't take their pain and hurt into a marriage. And I remember you teaching me this about the sleeper effect. And so it's been a joy to see that happen, be able to heal before they make vows into a marriage. And so I appreciate that, learning that part. Why do children of divorce exhibit unruly behaviors? Boy, this is a big question. Or why, what do I have here? It's a question I wrote down, trying to encapsulate it. Why do children of divorce exhibit unruly behaviors or out of control behaviors? We have seen it in schools, in churches, in Sunday school, and on children's ministries, everything. So talk about that, please.
You say we only have an hour today to answer this question?
I know. That's why it's hard for me to even get the question written down.
This is the question of the year. Yes. Well, mainly they act out because they're under stress, they're experiencing a crisis, and they don't have the vocabulary. They don't have the words to tell you what the problem is. Actually, sometimes they don't even know what the problem is. They just know they hurt. And so their behavior actually becomes their voice. So the more a child is acting out, the way you can look at it is the louder they're screaming, help me, help me, help me. My behavior is saying, help me, I need help. And I do all-day workshops on this subject alone and children reaching out. And a couple of things that we've learned down through the years, instead of saying, you're a children's leader or a minister or a parent even working with the child, instead of thinking, what is wrong with you? And the child is kicking a chair or throwing a chair or yelling at mom or whatever. The question needs to be asked is, what have you experienced? What's happened to you? How can I help you? It's a change in the mindset of the leadership. And so I work with churches and I tell people that we need to look at discipling these children, not the term discipline these children. Punitive measures don't work with these children because it scares them. They get more scared, they revert more into themselves, and then the behavior becomes worse. I don't know if that makes sense or not in a short sentence, but basically that's why they act out.
Yeah, I've seen it so many times. I remember some of the teaching that you had. It was about kids going under the table, and I experienced that in my DC4K class over here in Oregon, and there was a boy that did that, and he would go under the table, and you taught us that's their safe place. So we'll continue this conversation right after the break.
Get you down and leave you feeling frazzled? Then join Sandy Fowler and her guests on Heart-Filled Holidays every Monday at noon, 11 a.m. Central on TogiNet.com. Sandy will help you discover the secrets to having the celebrations you've always dreamed of while adding fun and meaning to your life. From Valentine's Day to Christmas to special family events, Sandy Fowler will show you how to put the fun and meaning back into those special days by taking a look at what we can do to turn the upcoming holidays into cherished memories and show us how to allow it to intertwine with everyday life. For more on the show, Sandy, and to receive Sandy's Holiday Happiness booklet, go to heartfilledholidays.com. Then get set to discover the secrets to creating happy holidays and happy everydays by joining Sandy Fowler and her guests on Heart-Filled Holidays every Monday at noon Eastern Standard Time on TogiNet.com.
Have you heard? The pages of American Patchwork and Quilting magazine come to life on our new weekly online radio show, American Patchwork and Quilting. Join Pat Sloan, our blogging and quilt designer host, as she talks about the latest trends, ideas, and inspirations. Her guests include quilt pattern designers, authors, quilt shop owners, and our editors. All quilters, just like you. Call in with your questions. Get quilting tips from industry experts. Learn about free patterns. Hear behind-the-scenes stories from our magazines, American Patchwork and Quilting, Quilt Sampler, and Quilts and More. Get the scoop on free stuff and find out more about the best independent quilt shops in North America. To listen to a live show, tune in Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Just log on to allpeoplequilt.com/radio. To hear past shows, go to iTunes and search for American Patchwork and Quilting Radio. We hope you'll join us because we know that quilting changes everything.
Welcome back to a place you'll find acceptance, understanding, and encouragement, as well as effective tools and resources to help you find healing from the stuff that gets in the way of your making emotional progress. Now with more of today's Chained No More, Robin Beesman.
Well, welcome back. We're talking with Linda Jacobs and about children of divorce, the effects that divorce has on them. We were talking about, Linda, kids who misbehave and who act out, and there's so many ways to help with that. And I remember I was talking about this boy that was underneath the table, and he didn't want to come out. And so you had taught us that we needed to go under the table and check in with them and see how they were. So that's what I did. What I found out was that his family was absolutely shattering that week, that he was scared that this was his safe place. And we were able to minister to him, to accept him where he was in the behavior. And it wasn't long before he came out from under the table. And I thank you for that. And I'm sure he does too. Before we go on, could you please give your websites and ways people, we'll talk about this at the end, but how people can contact you, Linda?
Sure. They can go to, my email is ljacobs, Jacobs, at dc4k.org. They can contact me through the blog, which is blog.dc4k.org. Or my personal website is hlp4.com. There's numerous ways to contact me through LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all those types of things. I just like to be out there and especially work with children's ministers. I belong to a lot of children's ministers' Facebook pages and things like that. I do want to go back and visit that child under the table issue and challenging behavior children. What we see a lot of times is these children of divorce, especially when it happens at their younger ages, have a safety issue. They don't feel safe. Even my own son, he was 8 when his dad left, and his dad had traveled his whole life, so he would be gone for 3 or 4 months at a time. Safety was an issue, but when his dad moved out, safety became an issue. He didn't feel safe. And as an adult, when their dad moved out, I had safety issues too. I would wonder, oh gosh, what if somebody breaks in, or what if we have a tornado and there's nobody here? But there hadn't been anybody there 4 months many times anyway. So children go into the lower levels of their brain. They don't have those thinking skills that they need. And so they revert back into the fight, flight, or freeze part of the brain. So when they come into a church room and there's crisis going on, their parents are divorcing, or it could be some other kind of crisis, they revert to the lower levels of their brain, and the child that slides under the table is merely trying to block out the rest of the world. They're fleeing from the situation, and that's what you came up across. The child had a lot of crises going on. They climbed in the table, and there's several different ways to deal with this, but the main thing is to understand the child doesn't feel safe. They're in the lower levels of their brain. They literally cannot think through the process. When you say, come out of the table, we're going to have circle up, they can't think through that process. All they're doing is surviving in the lower level of the parts of their brain.
I agree. One of the things I always say is that if you minister to the heart of a child, the behavior will change. It's when we constantly tell them what to do, how to do, when to do, and they're in trouble and they're sitting in the corner and we're not getting to the core of it. And that's one of the things I've learned so much from you. I want to go into another subject, and that is, what are some things that children of divorce worry about?
Well, of course, they worry about their safety. They worry about, the main thing is, am I going to be loved? And who's going to take care of me? Those are the two big questions they ask. They won't ask their single parent that necessarily, but who's going to take care of me and who's going to love me? I mean, after all, mom and dad said they loved each other, and I watched them say they love each other for years, and now they don't love each other anymore, so is somebody still going to love me? God created children to be dependent on their parent, and that's God's design for parents to role model, to mentor, to model, to help their child. And now the parents are no longer one unit, they're 2 units. So the child's trying to figure all this out. Some other issues they wonder about, like little girls will wonder, is Daddy going to get up on time? Who's going to fix Daddy's dinner? Who's going to take care of Daddy? Little boys will wonder about, when they're at their dad's, who's helping Mom take out the trash? Who's lifting the groceries, carrying the groceries in? Those are just a few issues that children of divorce worry about. But, they're self-eccentric. They worry about themselves. What's going to happen to me? Who's going to pick me up after school? Who's going to take me to the band concert? Who's going to go out and buy that special dress I need? Who's going to take me to the church choir program? These are just questions that flood their minds all the time.
Yeah, and you could see that worry on their faces when they would come into the classes. It's overwhelming, and they just can't be little kids anymore. They're so filled with worry, and so that's one of the things I think, to help kids verbalize those things that they're worried about and help be able to give them some perspective and help them with some answers. What if a child has never met the other parent? I've had kids that are like that, like their parents divorced before they were born or when they were very, very little. Will they still be affected by a divorce that happened like a long time ago?
Probably eventually they will. I've worked with a lot of children who've never met their other parent, children who've never met their dad, or children who never met their mothers. And some of these children will do okay until they get into school. I call it stepping off the front porch syndrome. I just made that up because little toddlers crawl around the room where Mom and Dad is, or where Dad is, or where Mom is. And then preschoolers, they go play in their bedroom away from the parent. And then as they go into school, they start forming friendships. And when they get into elementary school, kindergarten, or first grade, they realize, whoa, there's a whole other world out there. Wow, she lives with her grandma and grandpa. Well, he lives with his dad and I live with my mom only. And they begin to question, where is the other person in my life? Why do I not have a mom and dad? Where's my mom? Where's my dad? And that's when some children begin to realize that something has happened in the relationship. I had a little girl in my DC4K group who had never met her dad, and her parents had never been married. And when we were working with them, one of the things that toward the end of DC4K that she said, we talked to the children about what their identity was. In other words, divorce doesn't have to be who you are. You'll hear little kids say, I'm divorced. You've probably heard that. I'm divorced.
Yes.
Not my mom and dad are divorced. I'm divorced. And so we were helping kids understand that divorce doesn't define who they are. And one of the things that she said that she needed to find out that was bothering her was there ever a divorce? See, she's third grade, beginning to realize, maybe my parents were never married. Why am I here? What happened to the dad I've never met? So she's third grade, beginning to ask these questions now. So yes, I think it does affect children who have never met their parent. And what I tell them, and one of the stories in DC4K that we tell them is, a lot of times, especially for men, because that's the majority of the situations, many times the mom keeps the child, the men are the ones that leave. Not always, but we're talking in generalities. What we say is, your dad didn't know how to be a dad. Your dad was scared to be a dad. He didn't know how to do this. Because even the children who've never met their parent will blame themselves. Wow, did I cry too much? Did I wet my diaper too much? I must have caused him to leave. And we want to take that fear and that stress off of them.
So true. And I have to say, Linda, that in the Chain No More classes, there's adults that have gone decades thinking that the divorce of their parents was their fault. And the oldest of my participants is 87 years old. And all of this time, she thought that was her fault. It broke my heart when I heard that, but I sure have learned that from the kids on up. Why are children of divorce? This is a huge topic in our society now, is the bullying. Is it true that they get more bullying than other kids?
Yes, I think it is true. I'm not really I don't know that there's been a whole lot of research on that. I read some research, but I think they are the topic of bullies. I think there's several reasons for this. Many of them, stands to reason. You're a third grade boy. You're mad that your parents are divorced. You punch everybody's lights out, or you want to punch everybody's lights out. You're angry all the time. pretty soon other kids don't like you. They don't want to be your friend because you're hurtful. You hurt other people. Okay. And so then the bullies take over, and then they want to hurt that child. So a lot of these children, they don't intend to be bullies themselves. They become bullies, or they are the recipient of bully behavior because many of them are quiet or they're sad. They're crying a lot. I knew one little kindergarten boy at lunchtime who used to sit behind his lunch pail and cry every day that his parents were divorced. Well, he wasn't relating to the other kids. He wasn't forming relationships or friends. If the teacher didn't get on top of that, he would be bullied at some point later on because of his actions, and he was so into himself, which you can understand.
Yeah, I went into Sunday school classes and watched kids and could see that some of them would hurt other kids, some of them would steal other kids' things. Like you taught us that kids put stuff in their pocket to save their life around them, and there was just so much of that. And I guess I didn't equate it with the bullying part, but that's kids' reactions to kids who are hurt and are hurting others. So that really just makes sense. We have just a couple of minutes till the next break, but can you explain something about the loyalty issues for kids, what they live with as kids of divorce, loyalty issues between their parents?
That's so hard for children of divorce. Elizabeth Marquardt wrote a book called Between Two Worlds, and one of the things she says in that book, so I'm going to preface this question with this little story that she gives in there, is in order for a child to say hello to one parent, they have to say goodbye to the other parent.
Yeah, jeez.
So sad. And this doesn't happen because they're going to go visit somebody. This happens day in and day out, week after week, month after month, year after year, even as adults. At Christmas time, in order to say hello to Mom and her stepdad, who may have been the stepdad for years, they have to say goodbye to Dad. So you understand this issue of always saying goodbye and hello. So I think children of divorce many times have what I call split loyalties. They're loyal to Dad when they are with Dad, when they're in Dad's home, when they're with Dad's friends. And then when they leave Dad's home and that environment, and they may even take on Dad's mannerisms. And if Dad stands with his hands in his pocket, they put their hands in their pocket. And they'll use the same mannerisms, and they'll use the same phrases that Dad uses. They leave Dad, they go to Mom, then they take on Mom's nuances. They begin to sound like Mom, and then their loyalties lie with Mom. So they continually have this split loyalties.
Yeah, I totally understand it. We have less than a minute until the next break, but I know that once the kids go back and forth, they're like ping pong balls. That's how they feel. But also, they don't have a home anymore. They really do have either Mom's house or Dad's house, and that's what's so hard to watch. As we go into the next break, we will come back and we'll talk to Linda about what she has going on and a couple other questions, and we will see you on the way back.
Host and author Robin Beesman returns after this short break.
In today's business world, a helping hand or idea that doesn't come with an invoice is a treasured find. And if that happens to you, then you need to pay it forward to keep other entrepreneurs from making mistakes or getting a raw deal. It's called Paying It Forward with Josephine Girassi, Wednesday mornings at 10, 9 a.m. Central. Josephine is going to have the guests describe their accomplishments, the lessons they've learned, both good and bad, and then sharing those pieces of knowledge as we create a movement of paying it forward. For more information about Josephine, her business, and background, you can go to mymomknowsbest.com. Josephine Girassi has always been a problem solver. She saw this need and has turned it into a movement. It's Paying It Forward with tips, tools, and advice and hard lessons learned. These pieces of knowledge can make a huge difference for you, your business, and others. So join us for Paying It Forward with Josephine Girassi, Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m., 9 a.m. Central on TogiNet.com. If you're ready for a big change in your work, your career, your happiness, your life, it's time for the $1 Million Mindset with Marla Tabaka. Monday afternoons at 2, 1 Central on TogiNet.com. Marla believes that with the right mindset, anything is possible. Join us as successful life coach Marla Tabaka inspires you and her clients to explore, discover, and live your dreams by developing what she calls the $1 Million Mindset. Marla will inspire you to take action on your dreams and reveal secrets to success that will help you realize your own unique power. Tune into the $1 Million Mindset for heartwarming stories with Marla Tabaka. Learn tips and tricks to building a successful business and unlock the secrets to creating a happier, more balanced life through abundant thinking and attraction power. For more information on the $1 Million Mindset, go to our website, marlatabaka.com. That's MarlaTabaka.com. It's the $1 Million Mindset with Marla Tabaka. Monday afternoons at 1 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
Welcome back to a place you'll find acceptance, understanding, and encouragement, as well as effective tools and resources to help you find healing from the stuff that gets in the way of your making emotional progress. Now with more of today's Chained No More, Robin Beesman.
Hi, we're back with Linda Jacobs. I want to say something before we continue, is that if you're a single mom or dad listening to this broadcast, this is not about putting blame on a parent. This is not about making anybody feel guiltier than they probably already feel. What these shows are about is to help give you tools and to help you find answers to some of the things that are on your mind, trying to just get through some of this. And we know you love your children, and Linda and I have such a heart and a passion for kids, and that's the reason why we wanted to do this too, and we wanted to help in any way that we can. Linda, here's something that I heard you talk about once, about heartfelt connections and for the children of divorce. Talk to me about that.
Heartfelt connections. Children of divorce need, I think, this is my opinion only, but I think children of divorce need people outside the family unit to connect with their hearts. I especially think this can be done at church. I also feel this is where churches are a little neglectful in this area. And children's ministers tell me, well, I don't know what to say to the child. I'm afraid I'll bring up issues. I'm afraid I'll hurt. I'm afraid I'll get in the middle. Well, the children don't care. They just need heartfelt connections. They need somebody to connect with their heart. And they literally feel when somebody truly loves them and connects. I had 17 kids in my DC4K this last time, and we just finished Sunday night. And those children would see me across the church. They would see me at the store. Our hearts connected. They felt the love that I had for them. And that's what I mean by heartfelt connections. Just somebody outside the family can really connect with them. I have a couple little girls that they don't have grandparents close by here in Florida. So my husband and I have become like substitute grandparents to them. And they just climb all over my husband. They just hug me because we connect with them. We love them through the love of the Lord.
I always respected, and I love what you're saying, I always respected parents who brought their kids to Divorce Care for Kids, because those kids are coming in to talk about their family business. And I always told the moms that, we're, and dads too, we're extensions of you. We're not here to judge you in any way. What we want to do is help you with your kids. And I totally understand that. At Camp Harlow, when I was the camp mom, I was Mama Hummer. And then when I did DC4K and the teen program, my name was Ms. Robin. And I understand that. So everywhere I go, now I'm going to their graduations, for heaven's sake, and going to their weddings. I think, oh man, I need to get my cane out. I'm getting old here.
They contact me on Facebook, children who grew up in the program. They will contact, Miss Linda, is that you? I just want to tell you where I am in my life. Or thank you for helping me when my parents divorced. One young woman who now has 4 or 5 children of her own contacted me and said, can I call you? My dad just passed away, and you're one of the few people that was there in my childhood when he started down this destructive path. And I hadn't talked to her in years, and I called, and we had the most tender, heartfelt connection and conversation. All these years later, she remembered how much I cared about her and her family, and she was reaching out for that connection.
Yeah. I thought I better learn how to text if I was going to do a teen program, so I had to learn how to do that. And sometimes they would just say, hey, and that was just a thing of connection. Sometimes it was, I hate my dad so much that I'm crying, I can't stop crying. And so it just depended. They need that connection outside and someone who's objective and just loves them for them,
And those parents need that connection too.
Truly.
My text a lot with single parents, and my phone is always beeping late at night, like 10:30 or 11. After they have the kids in the bed, that's when they need somebody, you know. And my husband will go, what single parent is it tonight? You know, we'll text back and forth, and I always try to send it back to the Word. And just sometimes they just need somebody to listen. And I don't say anything that they don't already know, but they just need someone. They need a connection. You know, when I went through my divorce in the 80s, there was this research project done that said telephone lines between single parents, the usage just jumped like 10:30, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. And I would imagine if they did anything on social networking, they would find the same to be true. But that's when single parents will message me on Facebook. It's when they text me. That's when they need to reach out and talk to people.
Yeah. I agree with that, and it happens a lot, I'm sure. And a lot of things, Linda, I must say that when people contact me, I will send them to your websites. And I would encourage all of the listeners to go to those two that you talked about. It was dc4k.org, and it's also hlp4.com. These are filled with articles that can help you in so many areas. So
DC4K, it's the blog.dc4k.org.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah,
sorry.
The DC4K site is if you want to order divorce care for kids. There's a parent zone that has articles on it. But for the blog, which is all about discipline guidance, working with the child in divorce, blog.dc4k.org.
Okay, thank you for that. Would you just kind of end some of this by telling us about your books and divorce care for kids? And you also wrote the newest book, Attract Families to Your Church and Keep Them Coming Back. How they can check it out, what they're about?
Yes, Attract Families to Your Church can be found at any Christian bookstore online. It was actually published by Abington Press, Cokesbury, which is their other name, and you can order on Amazon.com. I was contacted, 2 years ago by Abington Press, and they said, we'd like for you to write a book. And I was thinking, oh, yay, a book for single parents. But when they contacted me, they said, no, we want you to write a book about all the other kinds of families other than two-parent families. And so I said, why do you think pastors would read a book written by a divorced woman? And they said, because all the other kinds of families are the families that you've dealt with. And there isn't anything out there like that. And so it was hard to research it because they were right. There isn't much out there. But how do you attract the families that are not two-parent families to the church? Most single parents, when a person goes through divorce, many of them will drop out of church. And so these are families that we need to contact. You know, I tell pastors, you show me in the Bible a two-parent family on a corner lot in the suburbs. You show me those stories in the Bible, because those stories are not in the Bible. The families in the Bible were dysfunctional families. And so that's the families that we need to reach out if you want to build your church, if you want to reach the people in your community. And I just talk about all different kinds of families. Singles, I talk about grandparents parenting, again, the boomer generation, single parents, all those issues in attract families. And it talks about how to attract these families and things that we need to do. On the divorce care for kids, we don't have a book on that, but we have all the blogs. There's, I don't know, I think over 250 some odd published blogs on divorce care for kids. So the only book that I actually have out is Attract Families, and then, of course, the children's book through DC4K, Stories of Children in Divorce.
I want to endorse your books just for a second. They have been so helpful to me, Linda. Because I have not lived all of this, I learned from the leader guide of DC4K so many things, how to minister to these kids. I knew my heart was for hurting kids, but I had no clue how to help them, and I learned a tremendous amount from that. With the Attract Families, I have read that, and I see how churches can help in a way that they never knew before. I don't think churches don't mean to. It's just that it's difficult to know how to do this and still minister to all kids, not just single out the ones who are hurting. And I loved what you've done. I've loved what you've said about it, and your heart is so huge. I know when you and I sit down and talk, we could talk for days and we still wouldn't be tired. I mean,
right. God
has definitely called us to these kind of things. The thrill for me, Linda, is that you'll be back next week too, and I am excited about that you're going to be talking about those ways. One of the things that that I know that single parents, sometimes they just don't know how what their actions might be hurting the kids. And you have great do's and don'ts and helps and encouragement for parents. And I think next week is going to be a phenomenal show as well. So I appreciate you doing that. Can you tell me anything? Just talk to the single parents out there, Linda, from your perspective and what you know.
Well, there's all different stages of single parenting, or I think there's stages of single parenting. When you first become a single parent, whatever reason, the death, divorce, maybe you were never married, you just had a baby, maybe you adopted. Maybe you're a young woman and you want to adopt a child, and so now you find yourself in the role of single parenting. I think many times at the beginning stages, it's like, whoa, what have I got myself into? Can I do this? It's almost like shock getting into being a single parent, and the main thing is get into a church environment, get into a church family that will support you, that will help you. I think the next stage of single parenting is what I call the transitioning stage. Is you're beginning to heal from the death of the person that you loved. You can be a man or a woman. You're beginning to heal from the divorce. Whatever crisis brought you to this point in your life, you're beginning to see light at the end of the tunnel. And at this point, when you're in the beginning stages, what I want churches to understand and single parents to understand, it's okay if you can't get involved in a Bible study. I had a single dad say to me one time whose wife left him for his best friend. When I try to pray, I can't pray. I just get on my knees and I just bawl. I wail. I just cry. And, and I had a single parent just tell me that a few days ago. And I tell single parents, it says in Romans, you just go before the Lord and you sigh and you moan, and the Holy Spirit will take your heart. He will take your sighs and your moans to the Heavenly Father. God knows everything that you're going through. So you'll get through that stage eventually. There's no timeline. It takes some people years. It takes other people months. You go in the transitioning stage. This is when you're beginning to get control of your family. You're beginning to get set up routines and rituals, and you're beginning to get established, developing a new normal. And then I call it the next stage is when you have arrived, you might call it that, when you're a healthy single parent, you've developed a healthy single parent family, and your children are doing well, and you have those routines established, and you're okay. You're okay in the Lord. You're ready to do a Bible study. You're ready to get involved in church. You want to serve the Lord. You want to help people. We had a big dinner Sunday night at our church, and a single mom was right next to her was a single mom who I'd worked with for several years, and across the table was a single dad whose son had just been through DC4K, and this hurting single mom was saying, I need this, I don't know how to do this, and I said, see this lady sitting next to you? She's been there. And in our church, I'll help you heal, and then you turn around and you give it to somebody else. And so that's what we were doing.
Yeah, the pain that the kids have, that's where the pain began. And what I see now, and as we're going to go into the last break, what I see now is what has happened through decades. And that's where the pain began, and they brought it forward into their life, and there's answers for that as well, and healing in Jesus. So we're going to go into our last break, and then we'll have a few last words for Linda Jacobs.
Host and author Robin Beesman returns after this short break.
Military Network Radio, Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, bringing you dynamic interviews each week and fresh information of value to improve your outlook, actions, and encourage each member of your family. From service members, wounded warriors, veterans, military spouses, caregivers, parents, and children, everyone serves, and together we can make a difference. You can find our show at our website, www.militarynetworkradio.com, and at toginetradio.com/Military Network Radio. Everyone serves, and together we make a difference.
Is there more living for you to do? Yes. Start living inspired. Be here for Living Inspired with Tricia Goyer, Thursday afternoons at 4, 3 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com. Tricia will dig deep into topics that matter most to women, inspiring women to make a change in their own lives and to make a difference in the world, and maybe even deep within their own hearts. Tricia is a wife, mom, speaker, family expert, and author of 24 books. For more information on Tricia and Living Inspired, go to her website, TriciaGoyer.com. That's TriciaGoyer.com. Tricia's vision is to be the voice of hope and possibility for women of all ages. Her intention is to serve ordinary women by encouraging extraordinary things with God's help. Tricia expresses real life, real hope for real women. Is there more living for you to do? Yes. Start living inspired. Living Inspired with Tricia Goyer. Thursday afternoons at 4, 3 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
Welcome back to a place you'll find acceptance, understanding, and encouragement, as well as effective tools and resources to help you find healing from the stuff that gets in the way of your making emotional progress. Now with more of today's Chained No More, Robin Beesman.
Boy, this time has gone fast. There's so many things to talk about. One of the reasons why I wanted to do this show, too, is to help churches and other ministries to know how to minister to hurting families. There's so much hurt out there. The divorce rate is so high. And many times, like I had said before, churches don't really know how to minister effectively, specifically to these kind of things. So next week will be part of that, like I said before as well. Linda, can you kind of talk a little bit about that, kind of lead us into next week? We have a few minutes here.
Exactly what did you want to know about next week? I'm sorry.
Just some of the things that you cover. I mean, we see these kids come into our churches and they don't know who they're with or if they're safe or those kind of things. So I guess my question is, what are some of the things that you want to address next week? Just very briefly. What do you see in churches?
We'll talk about how resilient a child can be, but what they need to help them be resilient is what I'm trying to say. We'll talk about how important a church family is, the role the church can play. It's crucial, the role the church can play. I've seen it. So we're either going to turn these children to the Lord and into the kingdom, or we're going to turn them away. Churches have a pivotal role in helping these children. So we'll talk a lot about that and suggestions of things that the churches can do to help these children.
Good. You know, I remember in Camp Harlow that I would be, this is just a part of the story, but I remember the kids would be sharing about what was going on with their family, and I would hold them as camp mom as they cried and cried and cried. This is my first step into this type of ministry, and holding them and thinking, you know, there's adults hurting as much as these kids, and what can the church do? What can we do in our specific church in this specific state of Oregon? And my heart broke for those kids. And I remember one night there was a middle school boy crying, and I was holding him at about 11:30 at night, sitting on a picnic table in the dark, and he was sobbing over what his dad left, and he has a stepdad, and all the stuff going on. And I remember thinking something has to be done. I can't. It was so heavy, and so the next year we put a registration form out with our camp, and in it was a little box that said, if you are interested in a single parent family ministry, check here. And Linda, 450 families checked here. We saw that the need was great. We saw that this was the time. This was the time to do it. That's when I began to reaching out to people like you, going to conferences and conventions, going to symposiums, going to court dates, trying to figure this out. That's the heart with what this show is about, to go to all of those different areas, different kinds of families, the step families, the single parent families, the military families, all of that. The hurt is so great, and we can only do our part in helping and give tools. And you have so many on your website. You have them in your books. You are my mentor, I must say. I mean, I go to you first every time I have a question about this. I want to say to the families, the single parents out there, that no, this was not your dream. No, this was not your family ideal. But this is what it is. And we want to come alongside of you and give you the tools and help you with healing in the Lord, how to help your children heal, how to move forward in a stronger way. And Linda Jacobs is the first guest for that. We will have people on teens, divorce in teens. We will have them on all different kinds of families. We will have them on issues. We will have pastors' perspectives throughout this year. And we look forward to input from you and what you think and how it's helping you and suggestions. And I know I'm going to have Linda Jacobs come back because I have some other subject that I want to bring her back at if you're willing, Linda.
Absolutely. I can talk anytime.
I know, me too. It kind of works that way. You will find, listeners, that my guests have passion as much as I do, and it is because God has laid it on our hearts to help with hurting families, and this is a wonderful forum to be able to do that. So we will look forward to that. I look forward to next week because churches don't know, like we said before, and we're headed in now to ways. If you have a pastor or a pastor friend or children's kids men kind of thing, ministry or whatever, please tell people about it. Please get them involved in this so that they can learn as well. We don't have all the answers, but we sure want to help with what we do have. So I would like to know one thing about the kid men thing. You've been getting more and more into the kid ministry thing. Tell me a little bit about that as the last few minutes here. How that's going for you, what you're seeing.
Well, I do like working with children's ministers, and just for short, when you're hashtagging, it's KidMens. I speak at a lot of children's pastors conference, CPC, CM Connect. Lifeway's got a KidMen conference coming up. Be speaking at D6 this next year in the fall. I got a lot of states and speak at state conventions and things like that. I like working with children's ministers because they have a lot of children. Exposure to a lot of children can help them, and plus, in today's world, a lot of our children's ministers, the younger population, they are adult children of divorce. They do know. They know the hurting, and they want to help the children. So I love working with KidMens. They have such a heart for children. They love the Lord, and they want to bring kids into the kingdom, which is what I want to do. So, people can contact me, and sometimes I put on my website where I'm going to be speaking next. So any major KidMen conference, I hope I can get into those venues and help the children's ministers understand.
Do you do find them more open now, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. When I started back in the 80s, first of all, we didn't really have children's ministry too much then. So now we have a lot of kid men, and we also have family ministers. And I like speaking to them because they're dealing with the whole family, which is what D6 is doing. So, yes, they're open, they're receptive, they want to help children. It's a wonderful world, and I want to be there walking along beside them. I'm kind of the grandma in the whole group because they're all younger, but they're very respectful. And they listen to what I have to say, and I appreciate that. I've written for several children's magazines, Kids Matter, Children's Ministry Magazine for Group, just things like that. So people can look in those places for articles for me, too.
That's great. Because of all the stuff that I've learned from you and the other people in conferences and stuff, it has helped me and gotten me ready for the Chain No More ministry, and to be able to look at the adult children of divorce and to I truly understand it now, because of all that I've learned from you guys. And it's been incredible because it rings true. They'll be talking about something, and all of a sudden I'll jump back to something that I learned before, and years back now. And I do see how it's affected, and I want nothing more, and I know you do too, nothing more than to help these kids heal before they bring it into their adulthood.
Well, I've been through the experience. Take the experience. We made a lot of mistakes back in the 80s, 90s, mid-90s, even the turn of the century, 2000. We made the mistakes because we didn't know what we didn't know. We know now. I have over 40 years experience working with these children and all across the United States. And now we have people in South Africa and Argentina and England and Italy and places like that, China, contacting us, wanting to know, children's ministers wanting to know how to help the child of divorce. Uganda, oh my goodness, who would have thought the divorce rate was high in Uganda? So all over the world, children are hurting and children are suffering because of the selfish adults in our world today.
Do you know, I don't know this, but do you know the stats as far as rates of divorce from country to country? I mean, a few of them at least, or a couple of them next to the United States?
I don't know. I know in Cape Town, that area of South Africa, and maybe Nigeria, I can't remember for sure, but I've talked to a lot of people in those areas, and it's something like over 80% of children in those areas. Now, Uganda, many of those children are being raised by their teenage brothers and sisters because their parents have died of AIDS or they've been deserted or one thing or another. In the United States, it's anywhere from 35 to 40% of children are being raised in single-parent homes nationwide. 1 in 3 children. So when you look in your Sunday school class, if you don't have 1 in 3 children from a divorced home or a single-parent family, you are not reaching the children in your community.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I looked at the news today, and I was seeing all that was going on in Baltimore and stuff. And I know on Facebook I was seeing a lot of people talking about the loss of a father. But I just think it's such a crushing of families that there's no stability. You know, there's just
it's not God's design for the family. God has a design for our family, and when we pull away from that design, there are consequences. You know, my children today are wonderful adults. They both have been married for years. They have children. They're successful. My son is an anesthesiologist, been to medical school. My daughter, I can't tell you what she does in the military, just to let you know, she's in the military as high as she can go in her rank right now. But, you know, they still have the scars of divorce. They still have those scars. And so children pay a price. Our society pays a price when we go against God's direction for our lives.
I love what you just said, because hopefully that gives single parents hope that their kids can succeed in life, even though they may have the scars, but the parents do as well. We all have scars of our own. Everybody has stuff. So I have a couple minutes here, and what I would like to do is I would like to close this segment in prayer, if that's all right with you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Lord God, thank you so much that you've opened up this area of ministry for us, this venue. Lord, there are so many people that are hurting in our society today. And Lord, the enemy has a big hold. And I pray, God, that you will continually show us how to minister to these families that hurt so badly. Lord, give us the tools to give them the tools. These children, Lord, please soothe their souls. Keep them from bitterness and anger to move that forward, God. Help them to find healing before they bring this into their adult life, Lord. For single parents listening to this show right now, God, would you please give them some soothing of your spirit as well? Would you give them direction to know how to raise their kids well, to reach out for resources, Lord, to find the answers, and to be able to get healing for themselves so that they can be a stronger parent, Lord, and take care of their children, God. Thank you for people like Linda Jacobs. Thank you for people like the rest of our guests, God, that are going to come on here and be able to minister in a way that nobody else could, Lord, because of who's in them. God, give them the words that they need. Thank you for today and what you've brought forward here. I pray that it will be used and they will be able to absorb it, Lord. And when they see their kids, when listeners see their kids today, help them to hug them even tighter and pray for those kids every single day, Lord God. Thank you, God, for Chain No More. Thank you for TogiNet to let us be on here. And I pray, God, for an amazing, amazing year of shows for your glory. In the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Linda, thank you so much for doing this. I appreciate it so much, and I can't wait for next week. People, tell your friends, tell people, get them on here and let them listen next week on Tuesday at 2 o'clock Eastern Time. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.
Again to Chained No More, a show of answers and encouragement for what you face today. You can learn more about Robin B. Ministries, read her blog, and purchase encouraging resources at www.robinbministries.com. There, you will be able to purchase the small group curriculum and self-discovery versions of Chained No More, as well as Robin's latest CD, Through the Rain, Crisis to Hope. Books are also available on Amazon.com.